Hi, Emily here from nonprofitist.org, the exclusive networking site and resource site for nonprofits. On today's show, we have LeRoy Miller of Children's Hope. They are an organization based out of Indiana, but they serve rural communities in the Philippines. Hey, LeRoy, how are you doing today?
Well, building pretty fair.
Pretty fair.
So,
So tell us a little bit about your organization, where you came from, what your mission is, and what your vision is.
all right, we started in 2007 with helping take care of some children in the southern Philippine island of Mindanao. For those that might know anything about it, it's in the Zamboanga del Norte province. And we have a couple things that we're doing. We help with education needs. It's a very poor rural fishing village. And what we were finding out is by the time they got around to 13 approximately, or started into where they needed to have school uniforms, the parents would say can't afford it, and they would start taking them out of school. And so we help provide with the school needs. I actually started by tutoring online, and it kind of started growing from there. We also provide nutritional support. Basically, we try to have at least one hot meal a day and send a snack home with them so they have something for bedtime. And then we, excuse me, we also deal with medical issues. We have several children that have had uh, dengue fever in the past, various other types of illnesses. We actually have one that's we're hoping is beginning to recover from some significant heart and kidney issues. The medicine that he needed was far beyond what the parents could handle, so we stepped in on that. And then we have the difference between an orphanage and a children's home, like we have. They live with whatever family member is taking care of them because of the working age population in the Philippines. Approximately 20 to 25% work overseas and send money to support their family. And typically, it can vary, but typically they're going to see this absent family member like 1 week a year or 2 weeks every 2 years. And in between times, they have to find somebody for them to stay with. So that either means one or both parents are typically absent. And whether it's grandparents, aunts, uncles that are taking care of them, they don't always have sufficient supplies to do that. So that's where we step in. The second thing that we started in 2015 working on was a vocational type school that would allow them to learn a trade, that would allow them to make a living wage in that area. Because what we have found, it's very hard for them to get a decent paying job without some kind of training. And we have been working with some of the local church leaders over there, trying to get some of this stuff going. In 2018, when I was over there, I spoke with Department of Education official and some of the local school officials, and they are so short on seat space, they asked if we would consider adding K through 6 to the school. And right now, we haven't been able to do it. It's a matter of funding because they don't have funds to pay for the school, but they do have some funds that they would reimburse. Right now, it's been kind of a challenge because in the past, I had been on several boards of nonprofits and raised a combined about $128 million for the different organizations and businesses I'd worked with. But in the past 5 or 6 years now, I work for an international company as in quality control, and I was working 10 to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. So I didn't have the opportunity to do fundraising like I had in the past. And then with some of the craziness that's happened in 2020, that's been limited too. So, but that's kind of a thumbnail sketch of what we're doing. These children, we also work with there's a local policewoman, and there's been incidents since it's such a poor area that unfortunately, people sometimes get desperate, that we've had cases where we worked with the local policewoman to deal with sexual trafficking issues. And for the most part, she has made them see the error of their ways and they need to go somewhere else. But so we try to do that kind of intervention also.
You guys really do a lot.
We are, there's no paid positions. Everything is volunteer. So 100% of what we take in goes to that. The how I got involved with that area is my wife is actually from there. And so I have a house and some land over there that is my retirement goals. We'll see if everything permits that, but she's actually over there with my in-laws because they have had strokes, so they're taking care of them at our place, in addition to her taking care of a lot of the children. Something that's going on right now with the virus situation, the school year over there got started about 5 months late, and instead of having in-person schooling, they were first of all going to do e-learning type thing, and found out the infrastructure wasn't there to do it because being such a remote area, it's kind of hit and miss. And so what they ended up doing in that school district, you would go get your week's lessons for the next week and turn in your previous week's work to get graded and reviewed. So in addition to the cooking and things that she does for the kids, she's also been teaching about 9 of them there at the house, the children's home. And a couple of the other people that have helped out in the past, they're helping with some of the other children. So that's kind of another thing that's going on. In as far like the vocational part and some of the trying to help the organization become a little bit more self-sufficient. The company I work for is a food company, and so we have started raising pigs. And when I've been over there, I have been running classes on how to butcher in super bird cuts, because they would typically just hack off a chunk of it and there you go. Well, I was able to show them by doing it in recognized supermarket type cuts, they were able to get more income out of the same pigs.
Wow.
They do that. And she also has a little store there. During the virus lockdown, it's very hard for many of them to get around to get their supplies and things. And so she has been running a store that really is less of a profit center than it is to give them access in the village there to what they have for their needs. And over there they have a term called barangay captain, which is kind of like a combination of a local magistrate. He's the guy that you go to to handle problems. And he knew that there was problems because of not being able to get to the markets as easy. So he pretty much gave her a blanket exemption that she could go when she wanted, where she wanted, and take whoever she felt was needed with her. And so she would go pick up supplies, and then has the little store there that they break it down into typically like 1 meal servings, or if you, instead of buying bottles of shampoo, it would be in one single use packet. And so it helps with limited income. It helps them to be able to get their needs like that. So let me take a break and see what questions you have.
Okay. Yeah. You've definitely answered a lot of them. What is the best way that people can get involved? What are your greatest needs right now and going forward?
Recently, the last probably 2 to 3 years, it has been somewhat easier to get supplies over there, because there was a store, it's called Prince Hypermart, which if you think of like a Walmart light, that's kind of what it is. And so they can get a lot of their supplies, so we don't have to send as many as we used to. I still make it a habit to send vitamins and supplements because they had some deficiencies in their diet that was causing health problems. So the kids get supplements and things. But what we have found the most cost-effective way since Prince has come into town, on the front page of our website, and the website is all spelled out, hopehomeandschool.org or .com, either one, and there's a donation button there, and that's the easiest and most direct way. Now we have people that have stepped up and want to sponsor a child. Breaks down to about $54 a month that we're budgeting, and some people might say, well, how does that figure? If you're familiar with Franklin Graham's organization, Samaritan's Purse, they have an organization very similar to what we have up in the northern part of the country, and his overhead is about $60. So, they're kind of regarded as one of the gold standards in the nonprofit world for efficiency. So, I guess to compare us to his standards, we're about where it would be expected. And as we get children sponsored, one of the things that we have done is $4 a month of that is what it is, I believe now, that goes to what's called Phil Health. It's a hospitalization insurance, so that if somebody gets sick and has to go to the hospital, we don't have an unexpected huge hit.
Mm-hmm.
It covers that. We still have to pay for medicine and things of that nature, but it's a big help.
Yeah.
So that's all what comes in. And through that donation button, you can have a recurring every month or a one-time donation. But that's the most effective way. The other thing, if somebody wants to help out, like with first aid supply, I typically send about every 3 months. I'll get them stocked up on things that's a little harder to get over there.
Okay.
Something we take for granted here in this country is like triple antibiotic cream.
Yeah.
The doctors ask him, where did you get this? Because they're used to the different ones by themselves, but not mixed together like that.
Oh.
So we'll send over, because when you have got 37 kids running around, you're always having scratches, cuts, burns, and things.
Yeah.
And so I generally send a box like that, along with the multivitamins and minerals type supplements, generally every quarter.
Okay. So someone who has access to supplies could donate supplies.
Yes, and for that, it's the best thing to do would be to send it directly to me, or the money, and tell me what you want it spent for, because there's a flat rate box called ballot buying box that anything you can shove in there goes for, no matter the weight, goes for the same price. And 2 months ago, I sent one of those filled with tools, because they had to do some repairs, and they had a Phillips screwdriver and a butter knife.
Wow.
And yeah. And so some friends had collected some tools. We had some new ones and things like that, so that they would be able to do maintenance. They could do repairs as needed.
Very good. LeRoy, can you share a story with us about maybe a child that's been impacted, or, do you have something that comes to mind?
Well, there's two that come to mind. One of them was a girl by the name of Pearl, and she was at this time I think she was about 11 years old, and they had a typhoon there that they were cleaning up, and she had her baby brother in her arms and tripped on some of the debris. And her arm broke right there, and it was just flopping, complete break. It wasn't just when she fell, she tried to push her hand there so she could protect her brother. Well, they took her to the hospital over there, which has next to no equipment. And they basically said, we need, it was like $200 and some now, and it'll be surgery later. Well, they didn't have that. And over there, if you don't have money, you don't get treated. And so my daughter sent me a text message from the computer. She said, emergency, please call. So I did, and she told me what was going on. I said, well, go take some pictures. And while she was getting pictures and sending them to me, I went online and was able to pull up, I think it was the Special Forces medical website, and showed how to fix that kind of a break. And so they got some, I think they were like cloth diapers and some bamboo that they could put around there. Well, her mom accidentally bumped that arm and she passed out from the pain. And I said, while she's unconscious, get it lined up like this. And when she came to, it was put together, and the bamboo and diapers were around it. It was strapped to her chest. And every time I'm over there, she says, Daddy, I can use my arm. They said that I'd never use it. So,
Aww.
it's that basic. And then my niece, her name was Lalang, and she was bleeding from the mouth and nose. And they took her to the hospital. And the hospital said that she had dengue fever and was going to die. And they put her in a room with, I forget how many other people, but just so they could die. And my wife had that a couple months previously. And I asked her, I said, do you know the medicine that you have? And she said, yes. I said, well, go get it. Because at that time, especially, very few prescriptions were needed in that area. And so she went and got the medicine, and she said, well, what do I give her? And I said, well, to start with, if she's going to die, give her the dose that you had, and we'll see what happens. So she started her with that kind of a dose, and she's healthy and runs around like a little deer. But
oh, good.
The hospital over there, to get any kind of lab work, they whether it's blood draw or urine samples or whatever, they'll take those and put a guy on a bus for 2.5 hours to take him to another town where there's a lab. And that's how remote it is.
Wow. It sounds like do-it-yourself medicine. That is wild.
Yeah. And now here's a funny thing from a standpoint. They have a term over there that cracks me up. They have people that maybe they've had first aid in military, or they've had some, you know how some people have just some basic skills that they know how to do it without having official training.
Yeah.
They call them the quack doctor. I mean, I've known some doctors that were quacks, but that's what they actually call them.
Right. It's different term here. It's almost a badge of honor there, it sounds like.
It's typically somebody that was able to use natural things there, or have some innate ideas on what to do in situations. But that's just kind of a couple things that come to mind.
Well, it sounds like you guys just really meet the needs that arise and try and provide, basic necessities and education and tools. And thank you so much for sharing the great work that you're doing.
With everything we do, one of the things we really try to do is to not just give them things, but to help them better themselves.
Yeah.
And there's a guy that was raised in Ecuador, Steve Saint. He's from Florida, and he's been a great advisor, telling us how to be able to help without harming, because we try to do our best not to create a dependency situation, but help them. And a quick illustration on that is one of the guys was a fisherman, and a tree during a storm came down on his fishing boat. And the typical fishing boats look like a canoe with some outriggers on it, but he couldn't get food and stuff for his family, because that's all the employment he had. And so we were able to help him get his boat fixed, and then he was able to not only supply his family but help others out too. So
that's nice. Empowerment.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for the conversation today, LeRoy. Again, if you guys want to find LeRoy, you can go to his website, hopehomeandschool.org or .com, and connect with him there. Thank you
very much.
You're welcome.